Good morning. Happy Father's Day. We get to celebrate fathers today, so happy Father's Day to all of you who are fathers out there. I know this is a day of celebration for many of us, but I also know it could be a day of mourning for some people who might have lost their fathers, or some people who did not enjoy a positive relationship or a father figure in their lives, and I'm truly sorry for that, and I know it will be addressed a little bit later on in the service. I suggested, because of my background, you might know that I am from France. I grew up on the border of Germany and Switzerland, right where the three countries come together. So with various cultures, so I've always been interested in that. And we all know that there are differences across cultures, different ways that we do things. For instance, our level of formality might differ depending on what country, and our language might reflect that. A whole number of differences based on culture. So my question was, I wonder if there are differences in the way that we perceive fatherhood and the role of a father across different cultures. So I thought, let me ask a bunch of people that I know from that background.
Hey guys, we're Kevin and Ashley and we live in Guatemala.
Hello, I'm Joyce from Brazil.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy and I was born in China during the Cultural Revolution.
Hello, my name is Dr. Atwell.
Hi, my name is Grace Zellers. I was born and raised in the Philippines.
Hello everyone, just wanted to wish you all happy Father's Day.
And I thought I would start. My father is Swiss. The Swiss are very hardworking, very nonsensical, very frugal people, and those all definitely apply to my father. He was not the warm and cuddly kind of parent. He was not terribly involved with us, especially when we were younger. I'm not sure how much of that is a personal thing or because he's Swiss, or just that was the common way that it was done in those days. Fathers weren't really involved in the parenting, the day-to-day kind of things, and the nurturing and the uplifting things. So we did not get a lot of affirmation or lots of hugs and cuddles and so on. That was just not the case. The father was generally seen as somebody who's the provider. And my father certainly always did that. He always worked very hard at his job, but also at home. For Christmas, he would always go out Christmas Eve, right before the Christmas tree people would shut down for Christmas Eve, so that he could get the cheapest Christmas tree possible. He has certainly later in life been very generous with us, and so that was not frugal to the point of being miserly. He was just careful with his money. One thing that I remember in my childhood is that we always viewed my father as the disciplinarian, because he would be the one, if we did something serious, that he would be the one that would be called upon to spank us and so on. And I always vowed that if I had children, that I would not want that to be the case. I would not want my children to view their father as being disciplinary. If they did something wrong, then when I'm there, that I would discipline them. And for those of you who know Ron, you know that that's probably actually turned out to be a good thing, because he certainly would not be the greatest disciplinarian there, and has not been, but he made up for it in other areas. So there's a little bit about me, and now let's look at some other stories from some other people from around the world, and even one that might be surprising to you, but from right here in America, but one father who is deaf and who tells us a little bit whether there are some differences there. So enjoy, and I will see you at the end.
Today is June 17th, which is Father's Day here in Guatemala. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is, it will always be on June 17th. So here we are today in the midst of that Father's Day celebration. However, in Guatemala, it tends to look a little different.
Yeah, I feel like here in Guatemala, Father's Day can turn into a very difficult day to celebrate. Fathers can be good providers, fathers can be hardworking parents, but sometimes there's this distance and disconnection from children, and sometimes the mother is the one that is taking care of the children all the time. Dads are just working and then just go home, and that's just my job,
In my culture, the role of the father is to provide for their family. In many households, the mother also works outside of the house, but the father is still seen as the main breadwinner, and in many families, the father is kind of like a king, so he doesn't do much housework or cooking or things like that. That was the way of the past. Like nowadays things are changing, and I don't see much of that happening in the modern families.
Back in Russia, we do not have Father's Day per se. However, we do celebrate men in general. Servicemen, army men, anybody that went to military, we celebrated on February 23rd. And then down the road, I think, when Russia became a state, they changed it to All Men's Day. And so we started celebrating men in general. And I do remember celebrating this day because I believe they had some parades going on. And I also respected my father for being in the army as well. So it was a fun day.
You know, people have been wondering, you know, a deaf man becoming a father, is that different than a hearing man? So yeah, most deaf people, it's different because of communication. And what exactly is that? So it's the language that we use in the family growing up. So both of my kids were born hearing. They were exposed to ASL, and we would label them as bilingual.
I don't really know how to compare. You could say that Filipino parents in general are not accustomed to PDAs, public display of affection, and also verbalized affirmations of their children at home. But our culture does not view that as a deficiency or a dysfunction. In fact, PDAs are more the exception than the rule. But I knew that even without verbalized affirmations, I still knew that my father was proud of us because he will always brag about us to his colleagues at work. One thing I truly appreciate about my father was that he was generous and he was a good provider. For decades, he was the only income owner in a family of 9. As if our house wasn't full already, he would still provide shelter and food to visiting relatives from the provinces. He worked as a government worker all his career life. And he was able to send us 7 kids to good schools and put a roof over our head. He was never an absentee father, even when the going was pretty rough. For that, we are all grateful.
I have 3 sisters. My parents love us very much. My father never tells us that he loves us. He even never tells my mom that he loves her. Telling your beloved ones that you love them is a very strange thing in the 1960s, 70s, and even 80s. In spite of this, I never doubt my father's love for me and for the family. Now it is no longer strange in China to tell your child, I love you. But I think a good father is a father, loving his kids by what he does, not only by mouth.
I feel like the moment the fathers start like really getting involved with their children and really like growing deep in that relationship with the Lord, I feel like they can see that their role of father is a lot bigger, it's a lot richer. I feel like it's so special in how like we can really like make sure that our kids turn into good people, good Christians, and followers of Christ.
My father is an example of a good father. He has always been there for us, teaching us about God and about the way we should go and how we should live.
So for me as a father, you know, it's the same as somebody who's hearing. I have rules, I have discipline, you know, have them rooted in a Christian foundation, you know, having a goal for my kids to go to college, you know, things that they like. It's the same as other fathers out there. And there's one big difference is how you communicate within the household. So you must sign all the time. So sometimes my kids would get frustrated, because there's no sound, and I would forget that hard of hearing or hearing with the TV or music, movies, with eating, the fork and the spoon. I forget that my kids can hear that. And they're like, Dad, shh, quiet. It's really annoying, that fork against the dish. Or, Dad, there's no sound on the TV. I'm like, you can read the captions. It's like, I can hear. I want to hear the movie. I want to hear the music. So having just some of those arguments with the sound and having that in a balance in the household.
I lost my father when I was 18, so I was still blessed to have him all those years. My father took time and took us fishing. We enjoyed going into the woods, picking up mushrooms, wild mushrooms, and berries and all that stuff. So it was a fun time.
My father loves DIY, do it by yourself. He made a lot of furniture at home by his hands. One time when he was making a spring couch, I was very excited to watch. I sat in the structure, pretending it was a playhouse. I didn't move out when he asked me. My father never lost his patience when I delayed his progress. Both of my parents worked very hard to support the family. They worked in a state-owned unit. State-owned unit means they had a stable job and a stable income. After each hard-working day, my father and my mom did housework together and provided us with dinner as best as they could. My father loves cooking dishes, so my mom cooked the rice, washed vegetables, and all other food materials, making everything ready for my daddy to cook dishes.
So growing up, I had a great experience with my father. He was also my pastor. He baptized me and he officiated my wedding. And it was always great to have him as a leader, not only in my house, but also a spiritual leader. He is really an example of a man of integrity and honesty and also of faith. And he dedicated his entire life to ministry and also to us, his family. He has a great sense of humor and he always keeps us laughing. And the grandkids love him. He only has the two grandchildren, which are my children, and unfortunately they live far away, but they love him so much and he's crazy about them.
But I think as the time passed by, fathers are always looked at hardworking people, and in Russia especially, father goes to work. And pretty much like here, they go to work and they come back home. Here it's a little bit different, and I love seeing fathers being involved a lot with the kids, doing stuff.
What I know as a father figure was someone who was always there for me, someone who supported me and was just present in every stage of my life.
The biggest difference is that I see that in my dad compared to how my husband parents, like the way my dad parented to the way my husband parented, is that we had help, a lot of help growing up from family and also from paid help, nannies, live-in nannies, and people to work in the house. And it was very common back then when I was a child to have that kind of help. And for that reason, they both could work. Because of that, he didn't have to be so hands-on like my husband is now, because now it's just the two of us. So my husband is more hands-on. He changes diapers, he does whatever is needed. And my dad didn't have to, but he was also great, always telling us bedtime stories and making us laugh and taking us to places, camp, and just always present in our lives.
I'm enjoying my fatherhood. I have 2 kids. They're amazing. They keep us busy, and we try to do as much fun as we can and try to invent some fun as we go along. But it's a fun period. And I remember when my daughter was just born, and we brought her home, and I'm like, okay, now what do we do now? Because you don't get a manual, you don't know really what to do. But I clearly remember that God has had given us a lot of wisdom. We were young, inexperienced, but He somehow implanted that wisdom of bringing up a child into the world. And so it was an amazing, fun experience, which is still going on.
So, I consider a father as a blessing from the Lord. Yes, I have my ups and downs, and, I have struggles just like any other father out there. Children rebel, they break the rules. You have the bad times, you have good times, sad and happy, and that's the same as all other fathers out there. And the only significant difference is how you communicate, and that's through sign language. And that's how we do that in my household. So that's one of the cultural differences. I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud to see that spreading with people at LU, with people signing and communicating. It's really cool. So thank you.
I didn't really know how to be a dad. Like, that was in my prayer all the time. I would hold my baby and just be praying like, God help me, because I don't know what I'm doing. And God is faithful. Really, really, God is so faithful and so good. And in my experience, I feel like God has taught me so much, like in these years of being a father, more than all the models or examples in my life previously.
I feel like there's not a lot of differences between the culture of the role of a father in Brazil and the role of a father in the US. I feel like it's very, very similar. Nowadays, in the modern days, a lot of people don't have help there either anymore, like we did growing up. So dads are more present and more hands-on with their kids in the modern times, just like my husband is. So yeah, well, I feel very blessed to have my dad with me, to have him as my father and also my kids' grandfather.
My father was not a Christian for most of his life on earth. He was stubborn and resistant to the gospel message and never even went to church, although he identified himself as a Roman Catholic. I thank God that although Papa was stubborn, God was even more stubborn with His love and His grace in pursuing my father. He finally surrendered his life to Christ at his deathbed. I was the last person on the phone with him before he breathed his last. It was an honor to usher my earthly Papa to the presence of my heavenly Father. As the classic hymn goes, and grace will lead him home. So did I say my name is Grace?
To those who are about to be fathers, also those who were fathers, and also those that may never become fathers, I still want to wish you Happy Father's Day. As a man, you still can be a father in some type of a role, even though if a person has never had any kids, I'm sure there were times that when you could mentor somebody or that you will mentor someone. Our God is an amazing God who loves us so much, and who is also a father to the fatherless. Thank God for being a father who gave His own Son for our lives, for His children. So let's just celebrate Father's Day and just remember our God, our Father, and also thank our dads.
Thank you for allowing me to share. Have a happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers today.
We just want to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are watching today. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed hearing these stories from people who grew up all over the world talking about their fathers. And no matter our differences across the cultures, across the world, there are so many commonalities too. And I hope that is encouraging to you. I know a lot of people say that the concept that we have of God is often related to our relationship with our Father. So we might see God as a person of love, somebody that we can trust if that was the image of our earthly father, or maybe we see him more with fear and suspicion. But I find it encouraging that Jesus said in John 14:9, it says, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. So no matter whether we had good or bad experiences, we are not tied to those. All we have to do is look at Jesus's example and focus on his grace, on his mercy, on his love, on the redemption that he represents.